AskReddit by single reporter. What things should be kept private from your so, no matter how healthy your relationship is? No matter how healthy a relationship is, there'll always come a time where you have resentful thoughts of your spouse. Those should be kept to yourself, as most of them pass quickly. The only time you should share them is if they are persisting in some behavior that is hurting you, and then it should be done calmly and not in the heat of the moment. For instance, if you got home from work tired to find your spouse binge watching a TV show, but the sink is full of dirty dishes, the impulse may be to lace into them. Don't. Go ahead and do the dishes, and tomorrow, when that initial flash of anger has passed, discuss the issue. People say arguments can be healthy in a relationship, but it all comes down to how you argue. Spouses, at least if they're good ones, know intimate details about you, your past, and how you think and feel. This gives them weapons to hurt you, and it may be tempting to use such weapons when angry. But if you know your spouse has a sore spot about their dad, and you say in anger this is why your dad never loved you, you have permanently damaged your relationship. And that damage builds up over time. Successful relationships survive because people rein themselves in that moment. Even when they are angry, they don't want to inflict wounds like that. So whenever the impulse arises to use those weapons in anger, resist the temptation. You may forget what you did quickly, but they won't. This is very true. I grew up with parents who used words as weapons. It's a struggle for me not to do the same. It's almost reflex to want to just go for the jugular, but I never do. We've been married 10 years this July. That you know you're the pet's favorite person. Oof, I am absolutely both of our dog's favorite person. We both know it, but I would never ever say that to my wife. If your relationship started under potentially offensive pretenses, they were madly in love but they were just the your rebound. An old friend of mine's GF told him this. I was there when it happened, and I swear to God I saw his heart break. They were really good together and really liked each other, so he tried to keep going, but I watched it eat him from the inside out until he just couldn't take it anymore and broke up with her. There really are some things you just can't take back. Where I hide the secret, spare pair of scissors I keep for when he's lost all the other 11 pairs of scissors we own and I need to trim a chip bag down to make getting to the ships easier. I had a pair of nail clippers stashed away because they were never where they were supposed to be. After my wife passed away I found 9 pairs. In her desk drawers, in purses she hadn't used in years, 3 pair in with her makeup. The location of your ships while playing Battleship. No one expects me to orient my ships vertically so that they each take up only one space. If she poops on the table while birthing your child, no she fucking didn't. Haha, my wife pooped in the tub at the hospital. I did my best to paddle it out of sight so the nurse will scoop it out before she saw, but she saw. Now it's a running joke. She can't gross me out, I took a bath with her poop. Yes, I was in the water too, when she was pushing. She asked me to be. A couple of years ago we found a pigeon in our garden that had broken its wing. My wife loves all animals so instantly named it Eric. We took it to local vets and they said they would take care of it. I emailed them a couple of weeks later as my wife wanted to check in on it. I got an email back saying it had to be put down because its wing had broken. This would have upset my wife, so I doctored the email reply and made out like it had been released. For 2 years after that my wife was convinced that a pigeon that came to our garden was Eric. We have moved since and she thinks another one is Eric. I will never let her know the reality of poor Eric the OG. The unkind shit you think when you're angry and tired. It will absolutely never help at all to say any of it out loud, and even if you don't have a particularly big fight or break up over it you'll still regret it and they'll still remember. Possibly also what you think about how hot other people are, depending on how jealous and secure your so is. People seldom understand that the longer you are with someone you love, the more you need kindness, compassion, and discretion. You know too much about each other that can be weaponized. Your psychologist therapy sessions. I had an ex that used to demand I tell him what I talked about in my sessions, and it was super uncomfortable. With my current partner, we are both in therapy, and if it's a phone session, the other goes in a different room. If we want to talk about something we told the psych or something, we will tell our psych at the next appointment we do, but I would never ask, and nor would he. We might ask how did it go, to which the other may say it was good or it was emotionally draining, but that's as far as it should go. These are personal sessions, not couples therapy. We're not in that. Big agree. My partner goes to therapy. I always ask how it went, and I do that to know the level of aftercare my partner may need. Sometimes he needs left alone. Sometimes he needs ice cream and a TV show to binge. Oftentimes he does tell me about the session, but I always remind him he doesn't have to. I think talking about it with me helps him process it. My dad has mentioned a few times that in their 40+ years of marriage, he's never gone in her top dresser drawer or purse. I frequently get into my wife's purse. Not to snoop, but to get her keys or something else that for some damn reason is impossible to find in there. It's like a black hole. Sometimes I'll just walk the whole thing to the car to unlock it instead of digging through. My wife is sensitive about animals, so anytime I read some sort of tragedy related to an animal, I hide it from her. You may want to look at www.doistheadingd.com. Basically lets you see if a TV show movie has any animals being injured, dying, among other things people may have issues with. My wife has a hard time dealing with that even if it's clearly CG, so I always check before we watch a new show. My steady supply of jokes. I set up my Android to send me a joke every night at 5 PM, and I tell it to my husband later on, before I jump in the shower. He always asks where I'm getting this stuff from, and I just laugh and shut the bathroom door. I would like him to continue thinking of me as this endless joke fairy for the rest of our lives. That's funny because I was sorting through the newest comments and I saw one that was like, my wife uses an app to get a joke that she tells me every night. I'll never tell her I know she uses the app because I want her to think she's funny. Whether or not I like my butthole licked. It's not something you should share with my mom when you're losing a game of Molly. Mayo. That's awesome. That I know you keep a secret stash of chocolate in the Tampax box. Not my business. My mom kept a big bag of mini baking chocolate kisses. My mom hated that my dad would eat them straight from the bag. So she started moving them around the house to hide them. Different drawer, behind the silverware, in a box of crackers, etc. One day I walked in on my dad, standing in the cleaning closet with a bleach and brooms, and saw him eating chocolate kisses from a towel rack filled with cat toys and dusters. He said that occasionally, he'd buy bags, himself, to refill what he took just to keep it interesting. I do 12-step stuff, and I won't tell her what I hear in the rooms. Who you see here. What you hear here. When you leave here. Let it stay here. Things that you don't like about their body. They just don't need to know. And X200B. If you are concerned about their health or hygiene, that warrants a conversation, but making comments about physical flaws, completely unnecessary. My ex used to always make little jabs about my appearance. I think he thought that those were things I didn't realize were wrong with me and that I would correct them if they were brought to my attention. Every single comment is burned in my brain and did nothing but make me more self-conscious. My current partner never ever makes negative comments about my body. And when I point out my own flaws, he always spins them into something charming and unique about me. It's really nice. The huge penis of your ex-boyfriend and how much more satisfying it is to have someone with a normal one. Trust me. I know it's not logical, but no dude wants to hear that. Don't question it, just trust me. It's funny, my husband and I have never talked about past relationships. I always thought it was healthy and a standard practice in understanding your current relationship, but I haven't felt the need and he doesn't ask or bring it up. My girlfriend told me how much bigger her ex is compared to me. Ladies, for the love of God, don't do that. Fuck. One ex shared to me how his exes signaled to him they wanted sex. I hated knowing that, as I was near begging for more intimacy, and each time he told me no and then he'd tell me that. I hate remembering this. Even though my wife and I have been happily married for 6 years, we decided we would never go for a shit while the other is in the shower. We're just not going there. That's just common decency. I don't know why, but I know that shit somehow smells so much worse in a foggy room than a dry one. Nobody should have to be in an enclosed space with that fresh hell. Where your secret stash of band-aids is. I don't know about the rest of you, but my wife and kids will go through an industrial size case of band-aids faster than you can say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and the twice a year I actually need one they are never there. At my house it's scissors. We have 3 kids and for whatever reason, anytime any one of them uses scissors, the scissors just vanish forever. I did an experiment once where for 5 weeks, I bought 2 new pairs every time I did my weekly grocery shopping, and simply put them where our scissors are supposed to be whenever I saw that there were no scissors there. To this day I haven't seen any of those 10 scissors since, so I keep a secret pair on top of the fridge for my own use only. The number of packets of crisps I eat in an evening. If I don't know the answer, she shouldn't either. It's not that it should be kept private, as in forcefully, but I believe both persons in a relationship should have privacy in their devices. Myso has all my logins and passcodes for my phone and tablet, but this doesn't give her the right to go snooping for stuff that will never be there. She can totally grab my phone, if it's nearest, to search on Google, or grab someone's phone number. But we've agreed that if either of us snoop, you better be sure that there's going to be something to find, because if there isn't, then you deserve the trouble that you've caused. I have all my passwords and pins documented and handed over. It makes it easier on them if I die suddenly. And there's nothing that interesting in my accounts anyway, unless you're really into reading spam. Journals. My partner writes in one every night before bed and I have no idea what any of it says. If she wants to share with me, she can. Those are her private thoughts and feelings until she decides differently. Same goes for me. You're a good person. I remember finding out basically my whole family read my journals as a kid. They didn't get why that made me cry either. Edit. Wow, there's no way I can respond to everyone. I had no idea how common this is. I'm so sorry for everyone, it's such a huge violation. I hope we all find a way to move forward. Eventually, years after I moved out, I was able to let it go. Everyone does shitty things sometimes. I'm sure I violated my family's privacy sometime over the years. It takes me longer to decide to trust people, but that has been to my benefit, not a lot of misjudgments. Thanks Del for sharing. How many Lego Death Stars I have bought. I love that you require multiple. My ex-wife used to interrogate me after every therapy session I had. Edit. You people are amazing. I never expected to get this much support. Thank you all. How do I know? Some version of what did you say about me was asked every time. Things you aren't ready to talk about yet. I have a lot of trauma and I'm not always ready to talk or explain. However, I'm lucky my partner respects that and has let me open up at my own pace. Very early on in my relationship we had been FaceTiming and the topic of trauma came up. He said, you know, I've had something really traumatic happen to me and I've told only 2 people in my life. One being my ex-wife who essentially bullied it out of me, and I never told her the whole story because I didn't feel safe. But I feel compelled to tell you about it. I want to tell you. Can I hang up and message it to you? And that's what he did. And I have never felt so privileged and trusted. I think that might have been when I started falling in love with him. In every aspect of a relationship, if they want to, they will. Your RuneScape password according to the RuneScape stronghold. How many times you look at your vagina with a mirror? After reading this, I'm about to do it for the first time. Wish me luck. If your so has been in combat, don't ask about the details. In the unlikely event they want you to know, they'll tell you. This is not to say they should not seek, you should not encourage them to get the appropriate medical support, nor is this to say that you shouldn't know they've been in combat or listen to them if they experience emotions around it. However, seeking out the details are a red line of inquiry. Eater, fellow Redditors have made good points in response to this, and it's important to note that I deliberately call out details as the red line. Acknowledging to your partner that you're willing to listen to what they want to share and or to be part of their support system, in whatever way is an integrity for your relationship, is always the priority. Your Reddit username and password. Deleted.